It's case cracking time. Pitter patter. Let's get at her. What's going on, guys? Joe R, Vintage Pokemon. We're back, and we're actually going to be doing a special episode as we're going to be case cracking today. Specifically, we got a stack of PSA cards. We're going to case crack those, and we're going to do our first ever submission on this channel to BGS. And we're going to be using as our third partner grading system, Trading Card World. I'm going to do a submission to them. I've never used them before, but we're going to submit. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8? No, I think 9. 9 cards to Trading Card World, who's going to submit them on our behalf to BGS. And we're doing this for a reason, because if you've watched the channel long enough, first of all, you know that we do vintage Pokemon all the time here. It's our favorite thing to do, so check that subscribe button if you'd like more content like this. But we're going to be doing a submission to BGS because I personally like PSA, but PSA has gotten really harsh with some of their grading recently. As a matter of fact, I've gotten some grades that I thought might have been deserving of a PSA 9, but they came back as a PSA 8. In some cases, I even got a PSA 7. But what we're going to do is we're going to submit some of these cards that got a little lower than I wanted to BGS. And we're going to see if BGS is going to give the same grade or a higher grade. Because something that all these cards I'm about to show you have in common is that really the thing holding them back is only one aspect of the card. In most cases, the surface. If the card has too many factory lines or too many scratches on the surface, that is enough to knock it from what would have otherwise been a 9 to an 8, because the way BGS grades is different from how PSA grades. See, if PSA sees that a card has too many scratches or factory lines, that knocks it immediately down to an 8. Whereas if a card submitted to BGS has that same problem, all the other things that are right about the card might help to actually pull it up. So for instance, if you're doing subgrades with BGS and the surface only gets, let's say, an 8, but all the other things get a 9 or higher, then that card would get pulled up to an 8.5 instead of a flat 8. And so that's what I'm interested in today is, will we be able to submit these cards to BGS and get a higher grade with them than we otherwise got with PSA? Who will be harsher? And will BGS agree that the surface should get an 8, or will BGS say, hey, you know, I think the surface deserves a 9? Who's going to be looking more closely? Now, remember that grading is subjective, and these are done by humans. So what one person says with PSA, or even two people say with PSA, might not be the same as what one person or two people or three people say with BGS, or vice versa. I mean, I could easily resubmit a card like this, which got a 7, and with PSA, it might get an 8 the next time. We wouldn't know unless we try, but this is, you know, costing money, and you don't want to send things over and over and over again. I really want to see if this is going to grade an 8 or 9 with BGS, and if that can actually improve our ability to potentially sell this card, make more profit on this card. So right off the bat, this is the first card we're going to crack, and we're going to submit. And I'm not going to show you guys the cracking process. If you want to see me crack something out of a case, you can check out the link above. I cracked a BGS 9 Charizard once upon a time and resubmitted it for a PSA 9 Charizard. So it goes both ways. I could crack something out of a BGS case and resubmit it to PSA, and I can hopefully get a higher grade that way. Or it could go this way, the other way around. We're just curious what we could get with these grades. And you can see, if we look at the back of this card, there we go. If you take a look at the top, bottom, and corners, they're very clean. Even the centering of this card is fairly nice. So what's holding it back? Well, it's got some scratches on its surface. You might be able to pick them up a little bit here. And that makes it deserving of a PSA 8. In this case, PSA knocked it all the way down to a 7, which I do think for this card was particularly harsh. But I'm wondering what this will get when we submit it to BGS. Will they grade it as harshly with the subgrades? Will the surface be only a 7? Will the surface become an 8? Will the surface be an 8.5? What are we going to get for our BGS grade? So, and you can see it's a beautiful swirl there. I just figured, why keep this as a 7? I think it's worth it to try actually resubmitting this to BGS to see if it could get potentially a higher score. This one, we got the birthday Pikachu. This is the OG birthday English Pikachu Black Star promo, as you can see right there. And again, same problem as the last card, only not quite as much surface wear. You can see the back once again, very clean back. Not much of any problems going on there. Centering is very nice on this card. And once again, it's just minor surface wear. That is knocking this from a potential 9 card, maybe even higher, to and all the way down to an 8 card. So PSA is looking at this. They're saying, well, the surface, at least that's what I believe they're looking at, the surface is knocking this down because nothing else is really a problem for this card. And the way BGS grades, which is corners, edge wear, surface wear, and centering, I'm wondering if only the surface is a problem, will this still have a shot at getting a BGS 9? I mean, if that's the only thing that's knocked, it could feasibly get pulled up to a BGS 9, and that would be good for us. Even if one of the subgrades is below a 9, it still would be better than having this graded as an 8 value-wise. So same thing here. You see a common thing that we're going on here. We got another Dark Raichu. Again, the edges, not half bad. Maybe a little tick of whitening somewhere along there. But again, not bad centering. Surface, the only issue, again, a little bit of scratches here and there on this surface of this card. And that's what's holding this back from getting the PSA 9. So I want to see what we're going to get with that BGS grade. Will it come back higher or lower? Here we have a first edition Dark Charizard from Team Rocket. Again, PSA 8. Centering, very nicely centered. Backside, a little bit of whitening in a couple spots. You can see those corners might have like a white dot or something. Don't think that's going to get knocked too much. On the front side, there are some factory lines. This time they're true factory lines mostly. They go straight across the middle of the card. Very hard to see because it's such a dark hollow pattern, but I was able to notice there were a few there. And I'm very curious what this is going to come back as. Just seemed like such a waste to keep it as a PSA 8 if it could potentially grade a little bit higher. And that's not to say that I couldn't resubmit this to PSA and next time through, maybe it would get a PSA 9. Again, grading is subjective. I'm not trying to flaunt one company over another. It's just about how they grade and who you get on that day sometimes. Same issue again, we have a Legendary Collection Charizard. The big issue with this card in particular, I don't think is really so much the surface. I think it's more actually the edge wear this time. It's got a little bit of silvering. I don't know if I'll be able to even pick it up on camera. You can see a little bit there. It's a little bit of silvering, and that's pretty common on Legendary Collection Hollows if you've ever collected them. So there's a little bit of silvering on the right-hand side here, and that might have held this card back just a tiny bit because once again, looking at the back here, we've got some really clean sides, really clean quarters. We've got some really nice centering on this card. So I'm very curious what BGS is going to score this as. Do I expect these to get black labels, BGS 9.5s? No, but do I think they can score higher than an 8? Do I think they could score higher than a PSA 8 with PSA at any point in time? I think some of these could. If they were resubmitted, there would be a chance that they could score higher than what they've gotten. And the last card that we're going to be submitting that needs to be cracked out of its case is this beautiful Legendary Collection Charizard. I bought this at the height of the Pokemon 2020 craze during the pandemic, and I definitely overpaid for it a little bit. But same issue again. Legendary Collection cards, sometimes very hard to grade them. Really nice centering, really clean corners and edgeware, very minimal edgeware, I should say. Problem, there is a tiny bit of scratching on the front of this card. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I know for a fact there is some scratching right where it says Fire Spin. I'm not sure if I can even pick it up. It is so hard to pick it up on camera, but there is some scratching that's going over the word Fire Spin there, just very, very light. And I think that held this back from getting a PSA 9. So wondering, would this get the BGS 9 with maybe an 8.5 surface subgrade or maybe an 8 for the surface as a subgrade? But everything else would be really good, and that would bring this up to a BGS 8.5 or a BGS 9, if we do get the 8.5 surface upgrade. And that's the thing, is that I think even if this becomes a BGS 8.5, that would be equivalent to a PSA 8 at the very least. It would be equal in value, if not more, than what a PSA 8 would be potentially worth. So I do think it's worth it if these come back as BGS 8.5s. Now, if they get the BGS 8, then so be it. I don't think that is quite equal in value to a PSA 8. In my opinion, the order of operations is BGS 8 is typically weaker than a PSA 8. A BGS 8.5 is about equal to a PSA 8. And then BGS 9 and PSA 9 potentially are equal to each other depending on subgrades and what the card was graded high on or low on. And then, of course, a PSA 10 is higher than a BGS 9 or 9.5, but then a BGS Black Label 10 or Gem Mint BGS 10 would be higher than anything else. And I think a BGS 9.5 would be higher than a PSA 9, just in terms of the value that the card would hold. It doesn't mean that the card is necessarily better condition, because that's subjective, but in terms of value, that would be how I typically would rank it. And I'll try to put those rankings on screen if I haven't already done so. And with this submission, I'm also going to submit 2 more cards. I'm going to submit this because I'm not sure if PSA even grades these yet or not. I know for the longest time they didn't, and it's silly that they don't. This is an Error Ninetales from base set. And the Error, if you haven't already been able to guess, is a very old, rare Error card. There is no damage next to Fire Blast there. I've had this in my collection for many years now, and I'm finally going to be sending it off. Do I think this is going to get a high BGS grade? Absolutely not. This card has a wrecked surface, no creases, but the surface and edge wear on it are not great. You can probably see on camera it's got some whitening here on the right, a little bit on the left. So it's not going to score high with BGS. I did not crack this out of a case, so I'm very excited to see what's going to score still. Just happy to get it encapsulated, added it to the collection. So that's going to be really cool for us to have. And the other card that we're going to be sending in is an Error Blastoise from base set. And the error is that this is the Stage Error Blastoise. Right there in the top right-hand corner, you can see the word Stage is missing. And so we're going to send this in. This card has previously been cracked. I actually wanted it as a binder collection edition way back in the day. But we're going to be sending this in to get regraded with BGS because I am curious what they would score it. I'm expecting, I think I would be happy to get a BGS 8 on this. It was previously a PSA 8, but I think it's a very weak PSA 8. It does have some surface wear, it does have some edge wear. So if it scores a BGS 8 or higher, I would be very pleased. Anything higher than an 8.5, I would be extremely surprised, but it wouldn't shock me actually if this came back as a 7.5. I do hope it scores higher than that, but I can't say I am expecting it. So those are the cards that we're going to be sending off. So now, without further ado, let's crack these from their respected cases. 3, 2, 1, and there we go. We have our cards broken out of their cases. Here's our bag of scraps right here. And our little old tags for days, or labels, so to speak. So we've got now a whole stack of cards to send off, high-grade cards to send off to BGS, and we're going to see what they have to say. Will they come back as BGS 8s, 8.5s, 9s? Will some of them get the dreaded BGS 7.5 or 7? I don't know. I don't care. We just do things because it's fun here, and we're having a good time, and we want to get the value out of our cards. Because we ain't a business, this is all a hobby, we just want to have fun with it and keep buying more things. So there we have it, Legendary Collection Charizard, ready to go. We've got 2 error cards over here that were not cracked out just now, but they're ready to go. And we're going to see what BGS has to say with this, send them off to Trading Card World, and we'll see how good a job they do for us. So tune in next time if you want to see more of what we got going on here. We'll see what we get back with these grades. So Take care. Bye-bye. And we'll see you later.